Welcome back, everyone, to the eCoreAcademy e-learning platform today. My name is AJay back with yet another anatomy and physiology video for you all. And for today's topic, we're going to be covering the key terms in anatomy and physiology. But before we get into that, please make sure you do four things. Please make sure to smash that subscribe button down below, hit that like button on this video, turn on post notifications so you don't miss out on any of our channel's latest uploads, and feel free to utilize that comment section down below. Of course, we'd love to hear all of your feedback. Some of your comments may, constructive feedback, comments, overall what you want in future videos to come. That comment section is probably one of the quickest ways to do so. But if not, I will show you our email address at the end of this video, and we will also include it in the description box below. If you want to have something that's privately sent towards us, and you want to you want a definitive contact line between us, please utilize that email. So as I was saying, we're going to be continuing with our anatomy and physiology course, but today we're going to take a little step back from these little systems, from the continuous systems that I've been doing on anatomy and physiology, and that Anita has been doing with our cardiovascular system. We're going to be taking a little step back and trying to accumulate everything together, and we're going to try and go through some of the key terms in anatomy and physiology. Now, these are very important terms. They refer to the overarching concepts and anatomical and physiological structures in the body itself, so that rather than looking at a specific system such as the muscular system and looking at specific muscle tissues, I'll be showing you the different types of cells, how they're classified together without pertaining to specific systems. So we're going to look at some key terms with directions, certain terms that we utilize specifically in anatomy and physiology, what their meanings are, and we're going to also look at some of the bodily systems that you will come across and look at their comprehensible meanings in terms of these systems. So this is more of an overarching video, and this is probably one of the most important videos you're going to need to utilize at the beginning of anatomy and physiology. So if you're just watching this video, first time that you're watching it, and maybe you're taking an anatomy and physiology course in your high school, I know anatomy and physiology is actually a very difficult course, so please make sure to tune into this if you're just starting or if you just want a simple review. I'm sure many of you will go through these, but I have some constructive ways to actually memorize them. I know I really don't like using the word memorize, but at the end of the day, you have to learn these terms. So I want to say learn, having a constructive way of memorizing is how I'd like to put it. So without further ado, let's go right into it. So first of all, we're going to start off this lesson by looking at the direction. So the overarching concept of how we're going to identify a location of an object or a certain anatomical structure, like an organ, certain types of cells, certain types of cell tissue, could be a gland, hormones, where everything is in terms to each other. So we're going to show you the different terms in anatomy and physiology, the professional ways of describing direction. This is much more accurate than merely saying north, south, east, west, in front, left, behind. It's much more directed and oriented towards anatomy and physiology, so it's much more specific and a lot less of a failure. It's much more fail-proof. So let's just look at the overarching concepts of how we're going to identify direction within the body when it comes to any bodily structures. So the first thing that I really want to put out there when it comes to direction, I know we have our directions in general. When you think of directions, you think north, south, east, and west, and left, right, up, and down, in front, behind, same side, opposite side. Of course, I've also gone through this in my geometry course, so please make sure to check that out as well. But these directions are not merely, they coincide with other things. They're not merely there on their own. Direction is always relative, so you have to have a certain starting point. And I'll explain that with these 3 steps to follow. So how to state the location of a component of the body, and this is just anything in general. You want to be specific when it comes to certain items, especially with anatomy and physiology. If you're a surgeon trying to dissect a certain animal body, or if you're doing active surgery on a human, you want to make sure that you know exactly where you need to go, and if you need to communicate it to someone else, be as specific as possible. This is something that they do very much emphasize in anatomy and physiology, knowing the location and properly communicating. So the first step is identify a known point or location in the body as your reference or starting point. So like I said, direction is relative. So direction is relative to your starting point. You need to have a point of reference, and this point of reference has to be something that's known. So say, for example, if you're looking at an algebraic equation, if you have x plus y equals z, right, and you know what the value of x is, that's going to be your reference point. So utilizing so z being your location, z being the actual point that you want to discover, or the actual location or bodily anatomical structure that you want to identify, and you're already given your reference point as x. Y is merely the direction. So y is dependent on x. Once you have your reference point, then you can identify the series of steps that you need to take in order to transport yourself to the other bodily structure, anatomical structure. So, second of all, like I just said, you're going to find the distance and relative direction that the unknown component of the body is, and you can first utilize your regular direction. So, once you've identified a clear reference point that is known on the body, then you're going to start to calculate distance and relative direction. So, where the active site that you want to discover, what exactly it is. You want to make sure that you identify how far it is from the known structure, which is basically like your variable, what you're trying to discover for. And you want to discover a relative direction. This can be in regular directions like left, east, north, west. Think of it in your head. This is your natural directions. But third of all, this is what we're really going to translate into. And of course, I'll include one practice problem just showing you just some generic. I have 3 different practice problems actually on one side. So if you're confused, just hold on until we get through the terms and I'll explain that then. So we're going to translate, after we get these regular directions, these cardinal directions, we're going to translate them into formal anatomical terms. So what you use in anatomy and physiology. So let's just break down exactly what I said. So you're going to start off with a given known location or point. So let's say that this is point A, right? This is our known location. We know exactly what it is, and we're assuming the people that we're trying to communicate it to, they also know where it is. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to try and describe it in terms of north, east, south, and west, left, up, and down, all your different types of regular directions on a 3D plane. So when you're doing that, this is merely just for you. You're not trying to communicate this to someone else. You're trying to communicate this within yourself. So think about it, storm it up. Where exactly, how could you explain it? So say, for example, you're trying to get to point B, correct? Point A to point B. You know that point B is 3 units up and 4 units to the right, correct? So you have your general direction and your general distance. You've already calculated all of that out. Now, for the last step, you're just going to translate it. You're just merely going to translate it into anatomical terms so that nothing gets confused and is specific to the body itself. It's built for the body, actually, and other animals as well, and any organisms in terms when you're actually looking at their biological structures and their biological makeup. So you're going to translate those into anatomical terms with given units. So say, for example, if you're trying to ask for a distance, you can utilize inches and feet, but we're going to look at generic distances in the body because there are lots of complex distances, and we're trying to stay general with this video. So throughout the systems, we will be referring back to this. So make sure you get the generic terms. There's a lot of terms in this video. So please make sure to check out the note sheet on our website at eCoreAcademy.org to get a full summary of what exactly we're going over. And of course, make sure to write down all of your notes, any notes that you need to actually identify these and help you memorize them and learn them better. So let's look at all of these different terms first. I really like how these terms are actually structured. They're very organized in anatomy and physiology, and there are some ways to easily remember them. But overall, these terms are very, very organized in any possible way that you can think of. It's very similar to geometry, which I do like and I actually taught. So this is kind of a bit of my forte. So I hope you guys really get the best from this. So direction part 2, continuing with direction, and remember direction is relative. We're going to be looking at the directions in anatomy and physiology, so those complex terms, what exactly they mean, what are their exact meanings, because they do have very simple meanings, but they are complex terms. So starting off with our first term, this is inferior or caudal. So this is an inferior or caudal location, and this means that a certain structure is below your reference point. So this is all in terms of your reference point. Let me just write this down. In terms of reference. So it's all in terms of your given reference point, and that can be absolutely anything in the body. Make sure that if you're trying to communicate it to someone, make sure that they know exactly what it is, or just form some sort of key. So this is inferior or caudal, so it's down or below your reference point. So obviously it's going to be down or below, so just like translating it, that we're taking this process in reverse. So you're going to be translating it from anatomical terms into your basic English terms, common, simple English terms. Then we have anterior or ventral, which means in front of. So say, for example, you have point A again. This is going to be merely right in front of, or it could be in front of. Does not have to be in front of. It just directly in front of. That's a different term. You can have combinations of terms, but this just means in front of in generic locations without any units involved. And this is all encompassing all 3D planar values. So this isn't just your 2D plane where you have northeast, south, and west. You're also going to have in front, back, behind, diagonals. You're going to have all of those directions that you can combine with multiple terms. Then we have posterior or dorsal, which means behind. So obviously if you have point A, it's going to be located behind your given point. Then we have proximal, which is the closest or close. So proximal can be in relation to other directions or other distances between a given reference point, or it can just mean that one object is fairly close to another object. This is very generic. So say, for example, we have point A and point B. I'll label that here. So point A and point B. Point B seems to be fairly close, so therefore it is proximal on its own. But it can also be considered proximal when you're comparing values. So let's say that this is point C. Point B would obviously be the most proximal value or the most proximal location within the body or a given anatomical structure compared to point C, because obviously you can see it's much closer in generic terms. It does not have to be. It's all directions included in the 3D plane, just closest in units. So kind of like absolute value. Then distal means far or farthest, so this is just the direct opposite of that. So let's say that this is point A, point B, and point C again. A and B, and then that's point C right here. So point A is actually closest to point B and farthest from point C, so therefore A is most distal to point C, and in general, A is actually distal to C. So if you're looking at a comparative value, something that's proximal to another value might not necessarily be proximal in a comparison. So let me just explain what that means. So if we take a look at distal again, the example that I have, A, B, and C, right? A and B might be a lot closer than A and C are. However, A and C don't necessarily have to be distal, if you get what I'm saying. B is just nearly more distal than point C is. That's all I'm saying. However, if A and C are really far apart, then they could be considered distal in either comparison or just in singular terms. So medial, that's another relative direction, meaning relative location. This is more location, not really movement. But medial means towards the center, so located towards the center of. And oftentimes that reference point, oftentimes you would look at it as the center of the appendicular or axial skeletons in the skeletal system. And in the skeletal system, your appendicular skeleton is your skeleton going across, so it would be right near the abdomen area, near the pelvis. And then your axial skeleton would be straight down, so right down your eye line, your nose, all the way down towards the pelvis as well, splitting that pelvis in half. So those are two different reference points. And you'll have those as your medial. So that's medial lines that you're basically going to merge in between and towards. And then, of course, you have your lateral, which is the opposite of medial. This means towards the sides of, so the opposite sides of, or just on the other side of a given medial ridge. All right, let's move on. So direction part 3. Directions continued, of course. We have a lot of directions. I just want to get over these first, and then we're going to put them into action so that maybe you guys can get a better grasp of what exactly they are and help you guys, I wouldn't say memorize, but learn these terms a lot better. So superficial means near to the surface. If you've heard of the term, like your superficial burns, that's something in the integumentary system. So you have your first degree, second degree, third degree, and superficial. So first degree burns in the integumentary system are just burns that basically braze the skin, just affecting the epidermis. Second degree affect more of the epidermis and part of the dermis. Third degree actually burns all the way through the dermis, so you're just literally getting into flesh. So your superficial part of your body is really just, in terms of the body itself, it's really just your flesh, where your flesh meets the skin. So your superficial burns are when you actually are starting to burn flesh, and that's where a lot of infection can happen. So it's towards, it's near to the surface of, however, it's near to the surface of the given skin and flesh meeting. But once it starts getting inwards, that's more of a flesh wound. Deep is towards the interior of the body. So this is a burn that basically not only breaches the skin, but also breaches the flesh. Superficial burns only breach the skin and only that superficial line where the flesh meets the skin. So deep would go deep towards the interior of the body. That wouldn't even be considered a burn. That would be considered a flesh wound. And of course, all this is still relative. So even if you're considering like a function, like a structure within the body, maybe a muscle, a muscle is actually encoded within flesh. It has surrounding fat. So it's within the body, pretty interior of the body, pretty deep. However, compared to other organs, maybe it might not be as deep, and it might be more superficial compared to them. So it's all relative. The next term is ipsilateral, which is the same side of the median. Remember when I talked about medians? Your median is basically your middle ridge. And if we have a given reference point, right, we have a given point at any part of the body, we would basically draw a ridge that's either axial or appendicular, meaning going up and down or side to side. And once you draw that median with that point being the center of it, you would identify points. And when 2 points are on the same exact side of that given median and on that same side of the given point, then they would be considered ipsilateral. And obviously, contralateral seems like contra, which contradicts. It's the opposite of an ipsilateral situation. So it's the opposite side of the median when two points are on the opposite side of a given relative median. So you have your constant point here. You're going to draw that median again, and then 2 points are going to be on the opposite side. Now, these points can be referred to certain locations on the body. They can be referred to certain anatomical structures. When I'm saying anatomical structures, what I'm talking about is any structures within the body. So that can be cells, all the way up to tissue, all the way up to organs, muscles, but not as specific as, not as general as systems. And then finally, we have our superior, which is basically above. And that's above a given point, a given location, or a given ridge. This is all very generic. However, the terms should be somewhat relative in your head. They should be kept relative, because the moment that you start applying specific situations, that's when you start to get confused. And that's when you need to know how to differentiate specifics and generics in anatomy and physiology. And there are different ways to study them. Now let's do some practice with direction. So we're going to identify each organ's location in relation to the heart. So let's think about the heart first. So the heart is located on the inner crescent of the left side of your chest. So it's not located all the way on the left side of this being my left side. For you guys, your right side. Or no, it should also be your left side as well. But when you're looking at this side, whatever your left side is, it's actually on that crescent. It's not located all the way towards the side, but it's on the crescent of your left side, not in the center of your chest. So essentially, it's going to be located in the upper left-hand corner of the chest, we can assume. So let's take a look at the lungs. Where exactly would the lungs be located? We know that the lungs are actually located literally around the heart, essentially. It's located in that very same area. They're definitely larger than the heart. They encompass more area than the heart. They have two different parts, but they're still considered one individual organ set. We consider them the lungs, but you can identify a lung as a separate organ. But let's identify some locations. So if we're taking a look at the lungs, correct? The lungs are actually going to be literally encompassing, like surrounding the heart itself. So in that case, it would be considered ventral, which means that it is in front of. So it's going to be in front. I'll write it down here. In front. So the lungs are actually going to be located in front of the heart itself. They're going to be lateral, which means they're going to be located towards each side of the heart. So located at sides. Because there are two lobes, kind of like two lobes of your heart, and there are two separate lungs that are located on opposite sides of the body. So essentially, you're going to be located at each side of the heart. Then you have proximal, which is close to. It is fairly close to, without comparison. Very close to. It's literally nearly touching the lungs itself. Then you have ipsilateral, which are located on the same median. So if you're thinking about the center of the heart being the median of the heart, normally when you think of a median of an organ, that would automatically be the center of that organ or center of a certain given structure, unless it's otherwise specified, like 3/4 to the right, 3/4 to the left, things like that. But ipsilateral, it's going to be located on each given side. So if you split down the heart in half, essentially, and you look at the two lobes, one lung is going to be all located on the same side as one lobe of the heart. The other lung is located at the other side of the heart. So they are going to be ipsilateral. So same, both lobes, both parts equal same side. And then when it comes to deep, they are both relatively deep organs. And in comparison to the heart, they're relatively the same. They're located literally at the same location. So when it comes to that contradiction where you think, oh, it's not more than the other, you can just merely state that location and make sure that you specify. So when it comes to deep, same depth as heart. So they're both located at similar depths. I don't want to get into too much specifics. Although the lung is technically not as deep. In reference to the heart, it is technically deep in within the same chest cavity location. So this is generic. If they're asking for a generic answer, this would be your generic answer. Make sure that you aren't like risking certain parts. But here, this is a specific answer if they're asking for specifics and a accurate comparison. Then let's take a look at the thyroid. So let's identify where the thyroid is. So the thyroid is located right at the base, kind of near the top of the sternum. It's considered top of the sternum itself, and then near the collarbone area where they meet at the very center. They make the little hook here. It's located within right there, basically at the base of the throat, where the esophagus actually starts to widen and starts to plummet down through the lungs. So essentially, that's where your thyroid is. So if you think about our heart is actually much lower. It's located towards the left side, mid to upper chest. This is located on the top of the chest near the throat. So we can start off by identifying it's above. It has to be above, and essentially off center from where the heart is. We know the heart is actually off center and compared to the center of the body. The thyroid is actually aligned directly with the body. It's a gland right here in the center of the throat, aligns directly with the center of the body. So it's considered to be superior because it is above the heart in relativity to the heart and the body standing up. It's contralateral, so it's located on an opposite side of the middle of the body. So let's just write that down here. So superior meaning it's located above. Contralateral, it's located on opposite side. Near opposite, we can say near opposite side of mid-body. So what that means is if you're taking, like I said, taking that axial skeleton again, you're going to be essentially drawing that line straight down your body, making that line of symmetry. When you're doing so, your thyroid is going to land directly there. However, your heart is going to be a bit off-centered, more off-centered compared to the thyroid. Therefore, we would say it's a near opposite side of the mid-body. And then proximal distal. The reason why I said proximal distal, you might be confused. Wait, isn't the thyroid like pretty close to the heart? It is. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to include a bit of a comparison. So on its own, proximal would be correct. If you're just asking for the organs relation, thyroid relation to the heart, proximal would be correct. However, this is something that I just wanted to add. If you didn't see that coming, you're not wrong. I just wanted to add this as an example. Technically, distal does not include here, but in terms of the relationship within the heart and lung, so the heart is very close to the lungs. We know that the thyroid is actually farther from the heart than the lungs are, so it would be proximal distal. So meaning it's proximal, close to heart. It is indeed, but it would also be distal, so farther than lungs. And you might be thinking like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. It's basically a contradictory statement. However, it's applying to specific and comparative. So it's specific to the thyroid is your first, then you can always hyphen it and make a comparative statement. Make sure that you specify what exactly you're saying, like I just did here. Then we, of course, have deep. So compared to the heart in relation, it is just as deep as the heart itself. It's considered to be as deep in generic terms. However, it is not as deep. So it is deep compared to the heart, and it is deep inside it is deep within the body near to the heart. However, heart is technically deeper. And then finally, we have lateral, which means located towards the sides of. So we know that the side of the heart here, located on the left side, actually matches up directly with the side of the given thyroid. So therefore, the thyroid is located on the on a lateral location, located on the side of the heart. So side of. And then, of course, we have our stomach. So this is another major organ, and that's going to be considered caudal, distal, ipsilateral, and also medial. So what do I mean by caudal? Caudal is another way of saying basically below. So the stomach is considered below. Remember, we said that inferior or caudal is actually located below. So in this case, the stomach is located much below the heart. It's also distal because it's fairly far from, and it's also much more distal than any of the other two organs, being the lungs and thyroid, are in terms of the heart. So it's far and farthest, meaning that it is far in general terms from the heart, and it's the farthest of any of these other organs in relation to the heart. And then ipsilateral means it's located on the same side of the median, with the median being, because it's not specified, it's going to be the center axial line of the body. Like I said, the line of symmetry of the body. And the heart is located on the same side. The left side, stomach is also located on the left side, so they are ipsilateral. And it's medial in terms of the center of the heart. So when you're looking at the center of the heart, it does align with the center of the heart, and the center of the stomach do align with each other. Therefore, they have the same center, same middle ridge, essentially. And they're located towards the middle of the body as well. All right, everyone. So that'll be it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. This has been the eCoreAcademy e-learning platform. Please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Turn on post notifications. Hit that like button, of course. We really do love all that support and encouraging all of our teachers here. And also, we will also pay attention to all the comments that you have in the comment section down below. Feel free to check out our website at www.ecoreacademy.org. There you get full unlocked access to what we as an online e-learning platform actually offer to you. We have note sheets, quizzes, and worksheets that go along with each and every single video, organized into their separate core studies. Also, feel free to email us at eCoreAcademy@gmail.com if you have any questions or if you just want to reach out to us. And just as a side note, we have a lot of new teachers teaching out the platform, so please make sure to check out their brand new courses and how they're starting off, and make sure to hit that post notification bell so you stay updated on every single new video that they post. Also, check out all of our social medias accounts down in the description box below at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also TikTok. We'll be posting really funny videos, skits aside from just academics, just to give you guys a good laugh. But check out those mediums and use those mediums to share all of our videos. Once again, everyone, this has been AJay Raj. I had a blast making this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. Very